Hey guys, how you doing? Hopefully you're doing okay. I'm going to probably give you more of an overview style approach to this video as opposed to read through every last word within the article. There is a link in the description. I'll give you an ever so slight taste of what this is about to begin with. It's in regards to an incident that occurred at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn very early Sunday morning. So there was a boxing match at the Barclays Center Saturday evening between two leading boxers, Gervonta Davis and I believe Rolando Romero. So it was a very highly publicized boxing match. I'm not sure if they're world champions or such, but you know they're very prominent. And then an incident occurred. Now this interview happened after the boxing match. In the early hours of Sunday morning, just after midnight. And this interview here between the boxing specialist interviewer Radio Rahim and professional boxer, previous world champion, I believe, Teofimo Lopez. We'll watch this interview and then I'll give you a few more details.
As a fighter that, he tries to get his rhythm. It takes him a while, but overall, he's someone that likes to throw counters and shit.
So we can see what happened there. The interviewer, Radio Rahim, and by the way, I follow boxing. He's a good guy, very professional guy. You can see the I don't know, fear, I guess, in his face and in his expression. They all look, and we just see panic. We hear Radio Rahim saying, "There's a shooter, there's a shooter," and so naturally, they GTFO. They get the fuck out of there. They head off the opposite direction naturally. Now, here's the good news: there was no active shooter. So it was believed that there was an active shooter at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, but thankfully that's a false report. We're not quite sure how the report happened, but there were seemingly perhaps several people shouting about, or yelling rather, that someone at least, was firing, but it turned out not to be true. Now, as we can see, stampedes did ensue. So we can see, and I do find this quite interesting. We've seen just in the last few weeks other stampedes. So we saw Garden City Markets in Los Angeles. There was an active shooter there. We saw people running through. Not everyone runs. Some people walk extremely casually. But it's interesting to see how dangerous stampedes can be. And also, again, just a couple of weeks ago, I believe it was in Massachusetts. I may have that wrong, but there was a basketball game in one of the massive arenas. The Bolton Celtics, and I can't remember the name of the other guys, but I think it was from Massachusetts or Minnesota, perhaps. I don't know. But yeah, there was an active shooter in that area, and we saw the crowd stampede outside of the arena. So we can watch this other video. So this is something that we're seeing more and more of. And in this video here, perhaps this is a clip from the previous one, but we really do see the panic. Again, some people are pretty calm. Some people are just standing around. They're not panicked. Perhaps they just don't know what to do. We don't really know, but a lot of people are panicked. And even though it's a fairly empty stadium at this point, all of the boxing matches are over. The big event is over. Most people have started to make their way home. Even though it's fairly empty, we can just see how these stampedes, people stampeding, I mean, they're being selfish. And I don't mean that in a critical way. I mean, it's just a comment on how people are naturally behaving. But they're putting their self-interest first, which is the right thing to do. And in so doing, they're bumping into each other, they're pushing each other, they're trampling on each other. And this has led to 10 injuries all of which, if I understand correct, all of the those that were injured were hospitalized, but none suffered any serious injuries. A security guard has said that it's believed that someone perhaps opened fire outside of the building, which caused some people that were close to leaving the building run back in. And with that, people just get the sense, as we saw with the interviewer, Radio Raheem, people just get the sense that shit is going down, that something nefarious is happening, that they're in a danger zone, and they need to do something. They need to GTFO. They need to get the fuck out of there. So it's kind of curious how these kind of situations do unfold, and it shows how dangerous a stampede can be, even when there's no active shooter. So again, this happened very early Sunday morning, and it was feared that there was an active shooter at the Barclays Center. It eventuates that there wasn't, but there certainly was panic. Here's a witness report. A young man named Joshua said that he was going down the escalator and heard shots, and then described the noise as loud thuds, which I find a little bit curious. Seemingly, this witness has changed their viewpoint in the matter of moments. One moment, they feel that they heard shots, gunshots, and then maybe it wasn't gunshots, maybe it was something else. And of course, this is a stadium. It is a full-blown production. There's all kinds of equipment going on. I'm not going to pretend that I know what all of those equipment is, but the stage, chairs, kiosks, all kinds of equipment. Who knows what it could have been? It could have been some equipment fell over, maybe some light bulbs popped, whatever it happened to be, but seemingly it wasn't a gunshot. But perhaps this is a little bit telling that we are so fearful nowadays. We are so much on edge. We are so aware that these mass shootings, these active shootings, do occur, that our brain tells us that we heard gunshots when we didn't. We just heard something that sounded similar to a gunshot, perhaps. So the witness, a young man called Joshua, says that he saw a flood of people running towards him. People were getting stampeded. People were getting stepped on. People just ran up the escalator. Everyone was scared. It was weird. It was weird. It was my first time being here at the Barclays Center. And I wouldn't blame this young man if it's the last time that he goes to the Barclays Center, or indeed any other type of event like this, which I know saddens a lot of people. Not me. For me, I'm not a social person. I don't like being out in crowded places. I never have, really. I mean, I used to go out to crowded places. You're sold on the idea that it's a fun thing to do. It's a good way to spend your time. But, at some point for me, reality kicked in, and it's not for me. I'd much rather just stay at home and take things easy. A lot of people, I would presume, are going to get scared or turned off to the point that they will stop attending these types of events. And I should imagine that is a significant loss, a sad thing, that people will be denying themselves some fun opportunity if they find it fun. But also it's going to be damaging to these arenas, financially speaking. The businesses involved, they are going to be harmed by this kind of event. So to go back to things, 10 people were injured. They were taken to hospital. All suffered minor injuries. So that's a big blessing there. It's a blessing that there wasn't an active shooter. We don't know at this point if it was a prank, if some people purposefully started yelling that there was a shooter in order to provoke a stampede, such a reaction. But my interpretation of the details within this article is that that isn't the case, that it's feared that there was just some noise perhaps, which people feared was gunfire, and they panicked, and the panic spread like wildfire. So there we go. There's this article here. Hopefully I've done a decent enough job in covering the topic and discussing the topic. You know, feel free to throw a comment out there if there's any comment that you'd like to express about this topic. But I'm going to finish this one up and make a couple more videos this evening. I'll thank you for your time.